Mayor James is really committed to making this a better place to live. He supports improving our education system in Kansas City and having opportunities like debating what it does to young people.
Okay, thank you. Hang on just a second. Thank you all very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. If you've spent any time around me, you know that I'm a big believer in education, particularly education of our youngest kids, because if we don't educate those children to be ready for kindergarten, they won't be, and if they're not ready for kindergarten, they won't be ready for third grade, and if they're not ready for third grade, their chances of graduating decrease by at least 12 to 15% on that fact alone, and they may become more of a statistic, unlike Ryan, where African American males are 4% of the college population. African American males are 44% of the prison population. And when you look at that population that has been incarcerated almost to a T, there is a huge educational defect. Can't read, dyslexic, whatever the case may be. Education in an urban community is the #1 economic development issue. There is nothing greater, and there never will be. I came from a family, grew up over at 44th and Montgall, 1 block east of Prospect, in a 2-room bungalow. My 2 brothers and then 3 brothers and I shared 1 bedroom and parents in the other. And one of the things that I enjoyed the most was when my brothers went to sleep, primarily because I was the oldest one and was always somehow responsible for what they did. Whether I was or wasn't, sometimes I was, but most of the time I was covering for them and got in trouble because I'm a very altruistic type of a guy. But when they go to sleep, we had a closet in our room. And that closet was where you access the attic, and there were steps that led up, and then there were flat door up there that you push up, and then you could go into the attic. And I would always go in there after they were asleep and sit on the steps with a flashlight as close to that top door as I could get, because the clothes then would cover me. If somebody came looking, I don't know why they would not look in the closet if I wasn't in the bed. At any rate. And I would read Doc Savage books. And I love Doc Savage books because Doc Savage was a hero you could aspire to be. The smartest man on the planet, the most fit man on the planet. I mean, if you studied really hard, you could be the smartest, right? If you worked out a lot, you could be the most fit. And he surrounded himself with people who were experts in fields like chemistry and explosives and communications and all sorts of things like that. And they went out and they fought monsters in some weird places. And it was very interesting. We were talking about that at a Turn the Page board meeting. Tim Martin, one of the board members, went out and looked online and found me Doc Savage books from that vintage and gave them to me. That's how important those types of things are. Turn the Page is a program we started that has a goal, very simple goal, to a hugely complex problem. Only 33.8% of the kids in this city, that includes 14 school districts, read at grade level by the time they finish 3rd grade. 33.8%. If your car only started 33.8% of the time, you'd blow it up. If you went to work and you only got your paycheck 33.8% of the time, you quit and find another job. But you can replace a car, you can replace a job, but you can't replace the fact that these kids that we are turning out of our schools these days are not even able to read at 3rd grade level by the time they finish. And there doesn't seem to be, in my mind, the necessary hue and cry and uproar about that. Just not enough anxiety about that. Not enough anger about that. Now, when you take that statistic, which, by the way, I don't want anybody to leave here thinking, well, I'm glad I don't live in Kansas City. Because it ain't any better anyplace else in this country. We're a percentage better than Kansas. Better than Kansas. I love that part. But it sucks still. There's nothing good about that statistic. And we're tolerating that. That's why mayors around this country are pushing grade level reading programs around this country to get kids reading. And just one thing, if you don't believe that this is important, take this apart. People who build prisons look at third grade reading level to determine how many cells they're going to need. Now take this apart as well. This country alone has more people incarcerated in prisons than Russia, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, China, Japan combined. We beat them all. And every one of them is ahead of us on the education curve. I think there might be some correlations there. That's why when you have an opportunity to come and talk to people who care about urban league debate, you do that. You do that because that's a portal. That's a way for kids who otherwise might not have an opportunity to be engaged in something that A, requires a fundamentally sound education. You can't be a debater if you can't read. It's very difficult. You may be very smart, you may be very intellectual, but you cannot be a debater if you cannot read. You can't be an attorney, which is kind of like debating, except you get paid for it, if you can't read. Lord knows, well, you could be a mayor if you couldn't read. How do you know? You never know. There's no contracts involved. Urban education leading to outcomes like Ryan is what we're striving for. That's the ideal, that's the goal, is to recognize a couple of things. That although poverty, violence, trauma, family makeup in the urban core does impact a child's ability to learn, there are things that can be done about that. And one thing that should never be done about that is to lower the expectations on the child. Every single child can meet the expectations you set, but if they start off with people going, oh, you've got no real chance of surviving or doing anything because you live in a poor area where there's violence, well, that's what they will aspire to, is not much. But this young man aspired to quite a bit. Others in this city have aspired to quite a bit. Debaters in this city have acquitted themselves well around the country and done great things for the city in terms of its image. We know it can be done because we see the people here who have actually done it. They've done it from the teaching side, they've done it from the learning side, they've done it from the participation side. So we know it can be done. The problem is that we need to galvanize people around those things that lead to the outcomes that we're seeking. And you're the vanguard of that. You're the ones that really care about it. You're here, you're working on it. But we need 10 more times this. We need 10 more times this if we're going to have the impact that we're looking for, which is to get more kids, urban league kids, involved in things that are educationally sound, that lead to outcomes that we're looking for. And that one of those roads is the debate program in the city. Central, I know that the Central teacher is standing there and the new debate coach, and he's going to be doing some great things. And Central had a great debate team. And by putting good adults in touch with those kids and showing them they can succeed, then what we're doing is we're creating more Ryans to go out and do the same thing. So in a few minutes, you're going to have an opportunity to hear from Ryan Wash. He's a Central High graduate who, along with his partner, won not just one, but he won the CETA and the NDT National College National Debate Tournament. That was something that had never happened before. He is the type of young man that I want walking the halls of our schools in this city so that other young men, African American men, an increasingly scarce breed, it's almost like you have to go to the prisons to see him. It's not a zoo. But he's the type of young man that we want walking in the halls, telling people, reminding kids, reminding teachers, reminding parents that this is what you can do when you want to do it, when you want to succeed, when you want to put in that extra time to get your stuff together, to make sure that you are prepared. He's a great role model. He's the type of role model that we are working to try to turn out in our Turn the Page program. So there's a couple of things I really want to do. First, I want to congratulate you, Ryan, on everything that you've done. Without you, there would be very little chance of continuing programs like this, because somehow, not only in this city, but around this country, we have decided that although our education system in so many ways is in dire need of improvement, that instead of doing those things that kids actually like, instead of being sensitive to your customer, the child in the school, and having music, having art, having debate, we've decided in our infinite wisdom to start cutting those things out. That's just bass backwards. Something has to change, and it's people like you pushing for that change that will make it happen. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for allowing me to be here. You can tell that this man is a smart man because he's wearing a bow tie. Thank you.